And it's different in Ontario, how the power sales work versus here in the bank sales. Like the bank sales here in BC, from my best understanding, if anyone's on here that can correct me if I am incorrect, it goes through, it still gets listed, but it's not like, my brother-in-law in Ontario, he went to go buy this like a massive, or was going to, it's like a massive foreclosure in, I don't even know where it was. But it goes through all the process. You have all the, different parts of the agreement and things like that, right? And then it's a clean transaction if you can get everything, right? Whereas here, it is, once you put the offer in, and even if it's accepted, so to speak, it's still kind of got subject to a court date. So while you're in court, even though there is an offer that's, essentially accepted, other potential buyers can show up to that court date and submit offers on it.
Are you kidding me? So you can have a legitimate accepted offer on that property, and up until closing, someone could really outbid you.
Yeah, really, yeah, because there's a court date. There's a whole hearing with respect to it, and then any other potential buyer can, and it has to be disclosed what the accepted offer amount was, I believe. So it gives any other person kind of, a little bit of transparency as to, this is the offer that's expected. Well, if we can go a little bit higher and right, then we can outbid this first potential. It just takes one person putting the offer in and it being accepted, and that opens the door once that court date happens for them to, accept more offers. So you might, even though it's accepted, doesn't mean you actually got the property.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's but I haven't seen much here where I am anyway, as far as that goes, because it's usually disclosed in the listing, of course, right? But it could also be just the price point of listing that I'm looking at that I'm not noticing it. So
it's interesting times.
Well,
thank you everybody for joining us so far. We got a small but mighty group.
Yes.
It must be summertime. Usually we had up quite a few people in here. They're slowly packing in. But what are some of the things today that you're noticing, Crystal, that people are concerned about with their leads?
There's the trainings that I've had recently, I'm going to say in the last month, wasn't necessarily the concern on the leads. There is one person, I'll kind of explain what their situation was, but most of the time it's just wanting to better understand their system because they've got all these leads and they're not finding success. And really it's just going in and helping them clean things up and use filters and showcase, how to stay organized, right? And that for some is enough because they feel confident in communicating with people, and that aspect of it is just, where do I begin, right? I've got 1,500 people in here. Where do I start? How do I keep people or prevent people from slipping through the cracks and things like that? So a lot of the things I'm seeing with respect to that, frustrations that have been expressed to me, is some people that, you get those where you're in good conversation with them and talking to them, and all of a sudden they ghost you.
Yeah.
Right. Or the same thing, or you gone on a showing with them, they've been pre-approved, and then all of a sudden they just disappear. Right. So it's that frustration of feeling like you're going to get somewhere and then the door just shuts on you. Right. So with no explanation or no understanding. Right. So, and those, we can't win them all. Right. We can't win all the leads, and who knows what happened. Something could have genuinely happened to that person, or their, their dynamics or their family, something, their situation. And they just, they fell off the map, and it might not be permanent, right? But I always say, reach out with actual concern, like, hey, I haven't heard from you for a while.
Right.
I just want to make sure everything is okay because, we were talking, and then it's kind of making it sound like it's okay if things have changed, or whatever it is, but like, showing and expressing actual concern for their well-being and making sure everything's okay right, on their end. Because, and then I said, people, you know what, as well, they don't like to be the bearer of bad news, right? So a lot of people are excited and they think they're going to be able to do something and they're optimistic, and then they go meet their mortgage broker. And that optimism for some people can go, right? Like, it's just, they can't get their, what they were expecting or anticipating just isn't reality, and they're not forthcoming and volunteering that negative news, right? Like, everyone's kind of like, well, I thought I was doing this, I was excited, now I feel like an idiot, or I feel bad or guilty that I'm wasted your time, and or whatever it is, right? So people kind of, we don't voluntarily give bad news, you know, just cause sometimes we just kind of avoid it, right? And especially when it's somebody that maybe you're just talking to or emailing or texting all the time, you don't feel like you owe it to them to give them that explanation when you're kind of ashamed of it.
I agree. There's a number of things that I think you've pointed on during this, and my friends that are listening, please let us know what you're experiencing. I think, first of all, Crystal, you started out by talking about how, you know, you're noticing a lot of people are getting a little bit overwhelmed, you know, that you're showing them how to use the filters and so forth in order to be able to filter their leads, to be able to work them a specific way. And I think that that goes right back to the first thing that I talked about when I was very first interviewed 3 or 4 years ago by Otto in June. Yeah, it was about 4 years ago. You know, how is it that it works for you? I, right from the get-go, created a system of working my leads. I'm not perfect at it by any means, but the worst thing you can do is let them go. Because now, you know, when maybe you're very hungry for money and you're seeing the expenditures that you're paying for the leads, but you haven't done a deal yet, now you're getting that anxious, I gotta work them, I gotta work them, but you've let them go, and now it's completely overwhelming. And not all of us have the personality to deal with organization and where do I start and how can I make this happen. So I think for anybody that's listening to this, whether you're with us today or you see it in a recording, first and foremost, when you're buying leads, you have to appreciate the dollar that you're spending on them. Appreciate it enough to create a system that works for you, so that every day you're doing something with a certain amount of leads until you can play catch up. And create that and have that system every single day. I'm 57 years old. I started in the business as a real estate assistant in 1991. I had systems back then. I still have systems today, 32 years later, right? Are there times that I want to kind of go, I'm sick of working my leads, man? Like, let me just enjoy the day? Sure. But I know that I respect the money that I'm spending enough to do what I need to do. It's not an all-day thing. It's a time blocking thing. Are we going to get ghosted? I learned a few years ago, because real estate will mess up your mind every single day. I learned a motto that, you know, I'll even say to my clients, I learned, don't mourn, Tara, what you never had. So do we get ghosted? Sure. Yeah. But am I going to stress and let that really devalue my leads? 100% no. If I got ghosted, I never had these people. Maybe did I get ghosted and I showed them one house? Sure. Is that the end of the world? No, it's not. You know, so I really try to take, my friends, that positive energy and I reinforce it back in. If somebody's going to ghost, yeah, could there be personal issues? Should you follow up with them and say, I just want to make sure you're okay? For sure. right? If they still ghost you, we're good, because there's always a new lead coming in. And I think that we can all relate to that. Every negative experience I've had with my leads, everybody, I've had 10 times more greater experiences where leads have done business with me that haven't even been on my radar, right? That never responded to anything I ever sent, or my drips, my calls, my texts. But then out of the blue, they're ready to do business with me, and I do 3 transactions with them in a year, right?
Yeah.
That's where I think for all of us, we have to have that bigger picture out there. Okay, we got to let this one go, and we got to move on to the one that's really going to bring me satisfaction and the joy that I have in this job. There's a lot of Debbie Downers out there. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Still, I'm over it. Right?
Oh, you notice it all the time. There's so many people that they point out the negative, and like they just can't be positive or optimistic, right? They have a really hard time with it, for whatever reason. that there could be a series of reasons why they think that way, right? But it's learning to even recognize that you are doing that as well, which is hard, right? Or if you feel like you're that person, speak to a friend or something that says, hey, every time you notice this, can you just point it out to me? Right? So that you are becoming conscious of when you're doing that, even though we might, not be aware or intend to do that, right? So
exactly. Let us know what you're experiencing. What I love about doing this now for, I think I'm on 3.5 years now, is the interaction between you guys and us is everything. We want to make sure, everybody, that everything that we're bringing you in these training sessions are exactly what you need. So if you're experiencing something specific, oh gosh, Crystal, like the last one, we had somebody that was really having a difficult time responding a certain way to a lead. So please feel free. I'm assuming the chat's on. But I'm noticing, here's what I've been noticing with some of my leads, because as you all know, I have my drip campaign, and then I do my other touches, sometimes with soft calls or soft texts. I also do a monthly newsletter. The newsletter is not stats. I look at the newsletter and go, okay, what I'm bringing to these people is more branding for Tara-Lee Real Estate, but also, hey, here's what's going on in the communities in the area. Here's a recipe of the month. It's a little bit of everything, except no stats. And then I do, of course, open house invitations. So all of my leads, when we're holding open houses, get an invitation to sort of let everybody know, if you know anybody, would love to meet you. But I am starting to see bits and pieces, and I'm trying to figure out where the rhyme or reason is, because everybody loves the newsletter. So that one goes over like a flare. Everybody loves the open house invitations, but sometimes I'll see somebody come in and then that direct text message goes out, and I'm seeing a little bit more in subscribes with that.
Okay.
So, I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that. I'm trying to figure out, okay, with the automatic text that's generated because of our CASL laws, it has to go out, right? I'm seeing them unsubscribe right away. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, so is there a way for me to softly reach them and say, did you know you can get listings, but you don't have to get the text at all, but you don't have to subscribe from everything.
And it's tricky to say, like, when people are doing that, and kind of like trying to think of why they would do that. And the only thing I can think of is these people are notorious for going online and signing up places, and they've now learned exactly what's going to happen with that registration. So as soon as they get what they're looking for, they just go, nope. Unsubscribe.
And that 100%. So, you know, I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
what I'm noticing. I'm seeing a fair bit of interaction with the leads now. I definitely am seeing a lot more people coming back on repeatedly during the day and also liking more properties 3 times or more.
Okay.
That
Okay.
failed out a little bit for a couple of weeks where I was like, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting a lot of inventory, but I'm starting to see that
Yeah.
over the last couple of days pick back up again. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
It,
mean,
but you know what? And that could go into, one of the things I said talking about is anticipation of what's going to happen in June. So that could be where you're seeing every kind of drop, and then news gets out into the ears, and then they're like, people start to go, okay, let's start looking. Let's just,
yeah,
okay, now we're curious. This is maybe some good news for some of us, right? So that could also spike that behavior, right? Of these people that are
right.
kind of sitting and waiting.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Who
I
knows?
mean,
Who knows?
if we had crystal balls, my gosh, you know, if we could just let everybody understand that 5% is still a great interest rate.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, how's everybody, you know, I don't know if anybody's in the chat yet.
Not yet.
What are
Yeah.
you guys experiencing out there? What's your
Yeah.
biggest turn off with some of the leads or objections that you're
Mm-hmm.
finding? I did a sit down with a couple of my colleagues because they were like, I got to figure out what to say when they say this. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if somebody says to you, I get people, you set them up for certain things, and then all of a sudden they'll reply back with capital letters, I'm only looking for bungalows. Like, you know, they're
Yeah.
yelling
I
at
think
me.
it. Yeah.
You know, part of you is like, well, you probably should have put that in the cert. Like, you know, you get defensive.
Yeah. It just.
And I'm like, kill them with kindness,
Mm-hmm.
Tara. Kill them with
Yeah.
kindness.
Yeah.
Hey, George, thanks for
you
letting me
know.
know. I really
Yeah.
appreciate this.
Yeah. Let me fix that
Oh,
for you.
yeah, exactly.
Why
Um,
am I getting 15 emails from you today? I don't know. Sally, you set up 15 searches.
it is
It's
true.
yeah, people, and I think a lot of the time I think we're all guilty of it when we do things we don't realize what we're doing with what we're actually doing, the impact or what's the result or outcome of what we're doing. And I think in some cases that's obviously with the leads as well when they're
Yep.
doing certain behaviors and things or not realizing what kind of attached to that, and the series of events that would follow that. So yeah, you kill them with kindness. Like, oh, sorry, or if you notice, I always say if you
Right.
notice that any of your leads are set up on multiple searches, um, go in and look at those searches and see if you can amalgamate them into one search or even just two searches, depending on what the criteria is. Because what happens when that does happen is the lead has opened up the email, let's say that you gave them with listing, and then they added more filters, and instead of updating that search, they save it. And so it saves it as a new search. So now they've got two searches, and if they keep doing that and saving it as a search instead of
Right.
updating, it keeps creating more which save searches, which essentially are just emails. Each
Right.
save search is an email. So I
That's
find
good
that.
to know. That's very good to know, everybody.
Yeah.
'Cause
So I always look, if you
hard.
notice, in your dashboard that people have more
Yeah.
than one saved search, look at that and make sure, because we don't want to, some people will get angry saying that you're spamming them. And it's just, well, no, you did this by accident. Obviously you didn't intend or mean to do this. And it's not very often it happens. I'm going to be 100% frank and honest with you. It's not very often that does happen, but it does, of course, happen.
Yes.
For
I've
some of
seen
them.
it and I wondered
Yeah.
about that. So that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have
Yeah.
somebody? Okay.
Yeah, we have Goldie, but she's asking if we can tackle the interest rate objection.
Yeah.
Interest rate objection. That
You
is
know,
it is definitely a common one.
it is, it is. And this is where I think a lot of the mortgage advisors, along with realtors, whether you're newer, you're seasoned, we all know that it's still a very good rate. So
Hmm.
for me, what I do, especially being in the business as long as I have, I've seen, some bidding wars, and then it goes back to normal, and then bidding wars again. I think that we all have an exceptional example to relate to these people that say the interest rate is too high. We just went through an incredible market from 2020 to the half of 2022, where everything across Canada, if not across the world, was in bidding wars, right? Everything. And what did we see then, my friends? We saw the Bank of Canada rate drop, the interest rate drop, right? I'm not here, I'm not a financial advisor, but what I experienced as I watched the market every single day, what sometimes feels like every minute of the day, we're now seeing interest rate drop, another volume of buyers in the market. Interest rate drop again. Now we've got thousands more in the market, right? And during COVID, we had limited inventory. The interest rate kept lowering. So did our inventory, but the buyer pool grew and grew and grew and grew, right? Prices now are selling for hundreds of thousands over asking, right? So what I do is I always relay that example to my buyers that are very afraid. And I always say, I want you to understand when the interest rate drops, buyers increase. When buyers increase and our inventory does not increase enough, we get bidding wars and now house prices raise. So you need to buy at a time when maybe the interest rate is a few points higher, but now you can negotiate your price on a home. This is where most mortgage reps will say, buy at 5%, don't buy at 3%, and pay 200 or 300,000 more. Because this is why, as I was saying, when we were talking, and I'm starting to see more power of sales hit the market over the last 2 weeks. People that bought in those times at inflated prices, some of them they only got 2-year terms or 3-year terms. They're renegotiating and no longer can afford, right? So that's the objection, my friend, I use, where it really does make sense to buy when you can negotiate.
And you know what, even if you were buying at a 5%, what I feel like that also gives opportunity, because again, you have that ability to negotiate. You can take your time. You're not making speedy decisions on offers and feeling rushed into a major decision. But also, if you're buying and there is anticipation of those rates dropping. So if you're, and they keep saying by 2025, right? So if the rates drop enough by 2025, and you bought and you're at a 5%, hypothetically, what could potentially happen is that interest rate dropping increases the value of your home just that much faster because the demand is there. So your investment just grew a lot quicker than it normally would if the market was just kind of stable.
For sure. And here's another interesting thing that I've used with some of the buyers too, because believe me, even my buyers, a lot of them were sitting on the fence. Like, do people really believe realtors anymore? I don't know. Apparently not sometimes. But when you look at how much it is, like what the cost is to rent, if you can really work with your mortgage person who's representing your clients and say, I want you to tell me if they purchased X at, let's just say 5% at a 5-year term, what would their payment be? And still compare that to what they're paying for rent for a similar purchase. I dare say that the mortgage is still going to be somewhat cheaper than rent. Rent used to be the affordable way for people to be able to have a house, because it was always cheaper than mortgages, but it's actually the opposite now in a lot of locations.
And you got to think too, like the amount that you're spending on your rent, I'm going to say $40,000 to $80,000 a year that you're giving somebody else to cover their investment rather than putting it towards your own.
Yeah.
Right. So even if it was just a little bit higher than what your current rent is, it's still worth it because it's kind of like you're building the equity and forced savings. Basically,
Yes.
the value of the property is going to go up. You're not feeding somebody else's investment at that point, right? So,
does that help her? Does that help?
Another thing that we can do as well is focusing, and I'm not sure if you do it, is not focusing on the interest rate itself, but the monthly payment. Right? Because everyone is so focused on those interest rates because the news is telling us to, right? So rather than looking and say, forget about what the interest rate is, what is the monthly payment that you can afford, right? If we were to put a monthly payment and focus on that, okay, so let's focus on what we can get you for $3,500 a month, right? Regardless of what the interest rate is. Right? So it's changing the view on it.
100%. And I think it does come down to the monthly payment. And I think that's why it's good to get some numbers just for you to keep in your pocket, so that you can bring it out from a mortgage advisor and say, okay, if you were to do A, here's what it is. And here's what I know rent would be for the same type of accommodations. I mean, the bottom line is we can only do our best to educate them, refer them to the people that are the pros in that field. They're either going to listen to you or they're not. What I still think is really important, especially my friends with our leads, because we're trying to get to know them through texting or calls or emails, is still to create that bond where even if they're not going to buy right now, you're solidifying your relationship with these people for when they will buy, right? Creating that connection. And maybe in times, maybe for some of these people, is this a coffee meeting? Right? So that you can actually start creating that bond through a face-to-face. Let me just meet you for coffee. Let's answer some questions. It's no pressure. But the more that you give, the more that you hand out to these people, when they are ready, they will use you. So I always look at my leads and go, the work starts for me the day they enter my database, my back CRM. That's when that connection goes, whether or not they're ready or not. That's the mindset I have. And I always will to the day I die. All of these people, I consider my clients. Even if I never hear from them. They don't know.
They don't know they're my clients. It's fine. It's fine.
And I'm just going to create that bond. I'm going to create that connection so that when the time is right for them, they're going to want to use Terra. So maybe for those people, maybe that's another plan of action for you. Let me offer a coffee meeting. Let me offer something that will solidify, because remember what I always say here, Crystal. What do I always say? It's not always about Joe, the lead that's entered. It's also about who they know.
They know.
So going that extra mile to educate, create is only going to bring you more referrals from these people.
Exactly. Yeah. And 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Now, does anyone else on here? And again, if you want to, we can give you the ability to speak if it's easier for you. Surrounding, Goldie's question with respect to the mortgage rate objection, do any of you out there have any tactics that you find actually help to, I guess, cure that objection or create some stability within the lead, and a better understanding that you start to feel a little bit more optimistic about them or motivate? They're now a little bit motivated to maybe start pursuing something rather than standing on the sidelines. And again, if you guys do have anything, any tactics, again, if it's easier to speak, just raise your hand. I will give you that ability to do
Don't be shy. You know,
Yeah.
because each one of you, I know each one of you that is on here with us today, you guys have conquered something with your leads, even if it
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
a reply that you did that brought you more replies from them, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what else?
Exactly. And it's testing the water sometimes, right? It's using different, you guys can do that with mass text even, right? Or mass emails, take like group A, group B, group C, whatever it is, and just start to watch. I'm going to send this to 50 people. I just want to see out of these 50 people that all have like the same, dynamics, essentially their activity or lack of communication or whatever it is. So they're all kind of like the same pool of people. When you send it out, sending that same or different messages, which one's getting the best response rate, right? Because that also helps you as well when you're wanting to build a campaign, right? You can see, okay, people seem to be more responsive to this. So these ones are actually both quite, they're both kind of getting responses. So needs both of these in the campaign positioned differently in there. So
Yeah.
the serum can tell you a lot, right? It's just really just like research, right? Like you had said, you're like you're researching areas and watching your leads, their activities, their behavior. It's researching your database and kind of figuring out where those sweet spots are.
100%, 100%. And I've been a testament to the fact that I do a lot of deals with them. I get a lot of referrals from my leads, but it's only because I just have the mindset where I'm just not going to give up. And that really is about that I want a return on my investment. I'm a businesswoman, right?
Yeah.
I do know that these people would never have had the opportunity to even know my name unless I wasn't buying these leads. So it's an opportunity that I've been given that I just have to work.
Yeah.
But I've learned that, there's a way that people respond to you. And I really do believe my experience, my personal opinion is when you go with that soft sales approach, you attract more bees with honey, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Anyway.
When you come with a point of, I'm just here to help you, you're going to notice a significant amount more willing to reply and talk to you. My goal with all of my leads through my email drip campaign, through my text campaign and my phone calls is not to do a survey type question. I don't need to know when they want to buy. I don't need to know all of the basics. I just need to know that if they need anything, I'm here to help them. And that approach has got me in commission hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you really got to take a step back and you got to look at your leads and go, okay, if I were in their position, what would work for me? And that's exactly what I do back.
No, for
Once you
sure.
get
Well,
them in the car, then your sales approach maybe needs to change because now
yeah.
you got to mold yourself to who you're working with, right?
Yes.
Now I
Absolutely.
got to be more relatable because now we're really face to face and I really got to close the deal and they may need something extra from me at this point.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And a good way of even practicing that is even with like a friends group that aren't in real estate and ask them the question. So this is a scenario,
Beautiful.
what would you need, from your realtor, the professional that you're working with to feel confident in your decisions to move forward? Like, what would it be that you're looking for, whether it's in the realtor or the resources or whatever? Because these people aren't familiar with anything. They're like, they might say, oh, I don't even know what I would need, right? But there could be people that will give you honest answers as to, well, if it was me, this is what I would be looking for.
I love that. Ask your friends. How would you respond? I love that.
Yeah.
Has anybody tried that on here? Do any of you make phone calls? How are you finding the calls lately? Are you noticing any feedback on your end, Crystal?
No, it's always the same standard. It's like there's no, especially
Okay.
from my perspective with the trainings and whatnot. But
Yeah.
there is motivation out there. I accidentally called a lead and booked a listing appointment for an agent by accident, so they are out there. It was kind of funny because I was testing his Twilio out.
Ah,
And I just did it blind, like, I'm usually do it, and it's usually I got a test lead in there and I click call just to make sure it worked. And I was just, my brain was somewhere else, and I just called, and all of a sudden someone answers, and I was like, to like go through it. And yeah, so we got him a potential listing out of it. So
well, you could
that's
call mine
exciting.
anytime,
I
Crystal.
was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the guy, I can't even remember who it was. He's like, well, thank you. That you did really well.
Right. Right.
So, but you know what? I think when you are calling, and I tell everyone, go in as if you have nothing to lose, right? So nothing to lose by calling them, and don't be so connected to the outcome of the call.
Yeah.
And I find too, and generally speaking, with respect to leads and your business, so leads, of course, is just the one pillar, right? So if we're so hyper focused on just one of our pillars that we're getting frustrated, what have you, and I could be wrong, you can correct me, Sarah, but I feel like in some cases you're neglecting other pillars then, because you should have your energy spread out on your business. So the leads are kind of just one of the things that you're working with. So you're not so hyper focused on it all the time because you're busy doing this as well, and this as well, and this as well. And this is just one of the facets of your business.
Oh, 100%. So remember, everybody, when you go to a coaching company, if you ever have done coaching, many will have statistics because they do a lot of stats. They'll poll a lot of successful realtors that have been in the business different periods of years, and they will actually be able to tell you how many pillars of a business do most realtors have. Since the day I started in this business, there was nothing less than 3 pillars. So there's 3 lead generation sources that filled our bucket in order for us to operate as a successful realtor. When I say success, my friends, everybody's version of success is different. Some that might be 5 houses a year. Others that might be 50 plus houses a year, right? But success for me means that agent is regularly year after year after year producing around the same number. We all know our numbers can vary, but we're not going from selling 1 house a year to 30 and then back to 1. We're kind of, maintaining that little blurb. So for me, I would never concentrate my business on only Google leads. I would never. That can run dry. Sometimes we go through periods where we don't have a lot of actions from our leads because they're all not ready quite yet. So if you can have at the minimum 3 pillars of your business, they say try to have no more than 5. I've always ran my business at a 4. Because I know that I need to fill a lot of different buckets so that I'm constantly bringing in new business.
Yeah.
Every realtor's business always is going to have a sphere of influence pillar. There's always people we know.
Yes.
Right? Always, somebody. So always you're going to have a sphere of influence. How do I work the people that I know? What do I have to do to get them to use me and to get them to refer me? So that's always going to be a standard. I think you should never get rid of that. Once you do deals, my friends, your second pillar is always going to be your past clients.
Yes.
What can I do every single month or quarterly for my past clients so they will use me again and they will refer me, right? If you're buying these leads, your next pillar is obviously going to be an internet lead gen, right? And then your fourth pillar, every agent's different. Some are doing networking, some are doing, for me, it's farming. I like to farm around my listings. I still like to flyer drop. I still like to do all that. You know, some may choose open houses as that next pillar because maybe they do open houses every weekend. It could be anything. But remember, when you're working your business out of 3 to 5 pillars, there's always going to be new business coming in.
Yeah. Yep.
But it starts with a business plan. You can't just all of a sudden one day go, okay, I'm going to work and not have a plan, right?
Yeah. You have to have some sort of plan as to how you're going to action all of this out and manage it all as well, right? Time blocking and being organized in your business.
Always. You have to.
Otherwise, you will like neglect this pillar, then neglect that one, or hyper focus on this one, then hyper focus on that one, and then neglect that one, right? So if we always have strategy and that plan, you're decreasing any possibility of that.
And that'll come forward in our leads guides. You know, if our leads all of a sudden hear from us for 2 months in a row, and then they don't hear from us again, except for some listings now and then for another 8 months, you know, what message is that sending them? That's why it's really important. I know a lot of people get into this business and they think it's going to be different than it really is. I can sell a couple of houses, I can make some good coin, and I'm good. And it's just so the polar opposite. We really have to work hard and organize to be able to get consistent deals coming in. And the bottom line is lead conversion, any conversion starts here, right? It starts with us going, okay, I'm committed and here's how I'm going to work it. And there's a lot of good advice with a lot of these training webinars. I started my business by soaking up every realtor in my brokerage, every realtor in my community, in my region. Because there was a lot less of us back then. So it was really easy to kind of go, well, what's so-and-so doing? And what's so-and-so? And that's what created my business plan of going, well, wait a minute. If that works and they're doing that, I'm going to try it, do it this way. And it just all comes together.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come together if you're not going to be committed to your own business. We're the CEOs of our own businesses, and we just have to act like it.
Yeah.
Right? And allow us to have some days off too.
Oh, for sure. Right. And sometimes you have to get excited about things to get motivated. Right. So if it means taking a step back and like brainstorming, or almost like brainstorm / daydream, you know, when you start to get excited about something, she's like, oh, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to start doing that. Right. And sometimes we fall into a slump where we can't even like think that way. We're just so whatever it is, where we're just kind of like flatlining, right? And then there's something that happens, and it could be a small thing or just a small idea or something you see, and then all of a sudden your brain just starts going of all the opportunity that you can leverage that, and then you start to get motivated again.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. It's not.
Boy, this is hard.
I know.
It's hard to communicate with people we don't know, but these leads are a golden opportunity for us to brand ourselves. And for me, that's always my mindset. As much as I love to believe every single one of them is going to be a client of Tara's, I always say to myself, they would never have known who I am had I not have bought these leads. And it's amazing to me how time and time again, it proves very fruitful. But it's because I'm devoted, I'm committed to doing my job.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It does definitely make a difference for sure. Right. And I'm sure you know, when you first started out, and like a lot of us, and some of us who are like in it for years, it's hard, it's the struggle, right? You're a little bit more ambitious when you start, but you know, everyone gets to feel defeated sometimes. Right. So it's you know, turning to the resources that you have. You know, a lot of brokerages have have specific individuals that's their job to help mentor or guide or offer solutions for those who are stuck, or talk to your broker of record, or build a small little group of networking within your office of people that you guys kind of work with or turn to. You're not a team, but you work, collaborate together on ideas and strategies and things like that.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's good too, because there's a lot of us that are all buying these leads. And when I was teaching realtors and training them, I used to say, it's always good to kind of get a buddy, have a buddy system, have a time blocking where maybe both of you can hold each other accountable during the day, just to say, okay, I'm starting to work on, let's just say it's my leads, and know that you're doing it at the same time with someone else, because I do think that, we work so hard to create connections. And sometimes when we get a very negative response, it really can really affect us. Even I have pity parties. I said this to you from the first day you and I started training together for Agent Locator. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think, okay, that's it. I'm working at Tim Hortons. This is BS. I'm out. We all get it. So that's why I learned that I have a buddy. She's my best friend. She goes through the same thing in real estate as I do, as we all do. And I'll call her up now instead of holding it all in, and I'll be like, can I just vomit all over you? And she does the same. And then we get it all out, and then she'll bring me to positivity. I'll bring her to positivity. And then I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I feel better.
And it's good. It's like, it's good having people like that, whether it's a one person or you have multiple people, because we all think differently too, right? So when you're brainstorming, sometimes you need that grounding. So when we're like feeling all crazy and we need to, or frustrated with a situation, we need to tell somebody and get it out that understands what we're going through. Sometimes that, and then they give you feedback that you're just like, oh, okay, I got this. It's fine now. Right. It's working. It's working through it all. But if we just sat there and dwelling and being frustrated with it, it's not. Sometimes it takes somebody else telling us. As much as we can tell ourselves, sometimes it does take somebody else telling us.
Yep. And if anybody wants to reach out, I'm always here as well. I'm a big believer in trying to help everybody kind of stay positive. If you have any questions about your leads, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me. I'm always an open book. I go through the same struggles as everybody else, and but it is, we can do this together as a group. We can have success. There's people in there that have a lot of money to spend.
Yes, sir.
Let's just figure out a way to kind of get them to work with us.
Exactly.
But having the right email drip campaign is first and foremost, making sure that the listings that they're getting, if they reply back to you and say, I only am looking for A, B, or C, you gotta go in and you gotta adjust their search. Don't just assume they're going to. Show them that you're on it, and you're on it right away. You're not on it a week later, right? When I react to them very quickly, they see that I've already started working for them. I'm hearing them. I'm replying back. One of the biggest things that I've noticed by having such a high number of listings, and we get the realtor.ca inquiries and so forth, or they fill in on Agent Locator, they get in touch, or more information. I always reply back immediately, unless it comes while I'm sleeping during the night. Realtor.ca's right away. And do you know, it's still mind-boggling to me when they say to me, you're the only one that's answered me.
It happens all the time. All the time. It's mind-boggling, because when you think of, I think of, people are on realtor.ca and people are asking specifically, or even on your website, let's say, not even have to be realtor, and they're asking questions about a specific property we not think the motivation of that buyer is here right now? Because if I was just browsing with no intentions to buy anytime soon, I personally would not be bothering somebody with questions about it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, and then, so these are leads, and I've seen it too, where I'm like, I hope God you responded to these people, because your system looks like you haven't. Right. Like, let's not ignore these people. And it happens so often. Right. So often.
You know, that's why I think if we can gain anything here by doing these webinars, you know, we have a really good opportunity to set ourselves different from how the majority of realtors out there are operating, which is lack of communication, right? Very slow responses. You have a really good opportunity to show these people that you're different than what they're experiencing out there. And that alone, your quick replies, your quick responses, that alone is going to put you so much higher in conversion in that lead's mind.
Yep.
That's why it's really important that you have the re-login notifications turned on, set to yes. Make sure they're not set to no. You need to see the notifications so that you can be aware very quickly of what a lead is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do have, like, everyone's default is, for one, they'll have the like the listing and viewed it 3 or more times. That's defaulted on all of your leads.
Yeah.
Or should be anyway, unless you turned it off
Right.
at some point. But that, you know, those right there, because I find, again, you know, the viewing, yeah, you know, but if you see it all the time, you know, and again, there's a reason why they're looking. If that same person keeps looking at listings multiple times, there's a reason behind it. But I find that the people that are liking listings, there's a higher level of motivation behind them. There's a reason why they're saving those listings.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure. It's key to understanding what the mindset is of these people that are looking at listings on your site. It's also key for you guys to know that your site is being utilized. Your page is being worked. That's a big deal. For my own mindset, when I see hundreds of people coming on every day, I'm like, yeah, this is good for me, right? It's paying off.
Yes. It's like almost like I don't know what you call it, you would call it, but you know how we get sometimes, we don't always, don't think you are hyper focused, but it's like when you make a post on social media and you look to see how many people liked it, right? And you have a website, and then you see all these people coming back. It's just like that little sense of like personal, it's like a personal boost. Like you kind of get excited about it or whatever, you know. It's just typical.
You're 100% right. It feeds in. We know what we're doing is working, right? They're coming back. Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's what, you know, whatever we're doing is having a positive impact in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. We've only got about 8 minutes here. Now, before we go, does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask with respect to leads? Any questions specifically for Tara?
Yeah.
And Tara, I know that you last session you were getting your create thing called lead gen. How is that coming along? Are we
it's coming
fully
along?
Up and going?
Yeah. We've technically relaunched. We're getting some more inquiries again. We had a lot of people previous on our wait list. I've got with Priscilla, we're kind of redoing some of the drip campaigns again and getting the product ready so that, you know, we can, when we do actually bring people back on again, we've got updated product and so forth.
Yeah. No worries. Yep.
Boy, that takes a lot of time.
It does, doesn't it? It's a project that you keep, you know, tweaking and fine tuning.
Well,
and then,
yeah.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So we're getting there. We're getting there. It's exciting. Yes, I appreciate you asking. Anybody have any questions before we head off? We're a quiet group today. All good?
I don't think so. We are definitely quiet today. Yeah, well, you know, I guess we'll leave it at that for today. It was always a great conversation, different topics. Again, you guys can always email if there is certain things. I know some of us kind of get shy or we don't think of it in the moment. We're like,
True.
oh, you know, so if you can always email if there's different topics that you want us to kind of cover on here. And again, if you popped in later, you're watching, I guess if you're not here, I can't say that, but these are recorded, of course. So if you go to our training site, which is just our training.agentlocator.ca, that site there will have links to all the different webinar recordings, past recordings. So
That's
link you
perfect.
basically to our Vimeo account. Yeah, so it makes it a lot easier for people to find the webinar based on the host. So yeah,
Awesome.
sign up for them.
We'll see you all in a month.
Sounds good. Awesome.
All right,
Thanks,
girl.
Sarah. All right.
Bye, my friends.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.